Hey guys, so have you ever thought about the fact that you can actually take your fear and let it drive you into motivation? Let that fear take you to the next level. Allow that fear to push you towards your goals, your accomplishments that you will have on the other end of it. You ever thought about that? Sometimes we can be so scared to do something, but you can take that same energy, because fear, it really has an energy, but you can take that same energy and say, you know what? I'm going to show up anyway. I'm going to show up anyway. I'm here in Florida and I'm out getting my walk in because, believe it or not, we're going to drop down into the 30s tonight. So I'm like, let me get it in while I can. I'm not going to allow the weather to hold me back. And I would do that from time to time. I would say, I hate cold weather so much. I'm not going to be able to work out. No, this girl has learned to take her coat, put it on, regardless of what people think or say, and still get her steps in, get her walk in. It was times I would just stay in the house and not walk because of the weather, but I'm no longer doing that. Would I say I was fearful of it? No, I wouldn't say that I was fearful, but it was a challenge for me. You know what I mean? But for as a fear, I would use the example of starting YouTube and going live. That was a major fear factor for me. Because I had sat in on other people's lives and I had seen what the troll nation can and will do to you. And I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can deal with that. But guess what? Here I am, still standing, still going live. This isn't a live, but I still go live. I go live every morning, Eastern Standard Time, 4 a.m. And guess what happens? Here and there, the trolls come in, but I use the remove button. Then I also have moderators. They're there to assist me. And I have learned to pray before I, start my lives and ask God's presence to be there with me. So that's what we have to do when there's something challenging before us and we're just shaking in our boots and we're so afraid to do that thing. What is that thing you're so afraid to do? Is it going live? Is it that? Is it speaking in front of people? Your boss wants you to do a presentation and you have to get up and speak in front of a group. Are you afraid to do that? Start practicing. Let that fear drive you. You start saying, you know what? I'm going to start putting my camera on and I'm going to start preparing myself for this presentation. And it's not going to be as bad as you think. You can do it in front of your kids, do it in front of your husband, your wife, your family members. If you got to present, you got to start taking that same energy and say, I'm not going to allow this to keep me in the box. It is super windy out here, guys. It is super windy out here, but I'm going to keep on pushing. But yeah, guys, so let your fear drive you to accomplish whatever that task may be. Some of you guys might be wanting to go to the gym, but you have a fear of letting people see you work out. You may not want people to watch you work out. I used to would be uncomfortable walking outside because I would think everybody was watching me. Everybody is watching me. But I had to get over that. Another thing, I remember when I first started back roller skating, there was a fear of falling. And I fell and I broke my ankle. But I didn't break my ankle while skating. I broke my ankle because I was not listening to my inner self telling me to take my skates off before I walked down this hill. But I could have allowed that situation to keep me from skating again. But I continued on. After my ankle healed up, I grabbed my skates and I went right back out there again. I was determined to continue to show up for myself. And that's what you have to say. You have to say, you know what? I gotta be so into this. I gotta be so serious about meeting my own expectations, that I'm not going to allow fear to drive me. I'm not going to allow fear to do that. And I want you guys to really start journaling this stuff. Start writing these things down. What is that one thing that's holding you back from going to your next? Do you have a fear of speaking to people? You have questions and you don't want to raise your hand in front of everybody else? Is that a fear of yours? Because you don't want people to feel or think that you're stupid? Now, why do adults do that? You know, I can see kids, because kids can be really brutal. They can be really mean. And so can adults. But at some point in our lives, we have to say, you know what? I am going to ask my question. Because guess what you're going to learn? You are going to actually learn that there's other people with that same question. But you have the courage and the confidence to raise your hand. Why continue to work on something and it's not making sense to you, when all you can do is just ask the question? Ask for help. Stop having that fear of asking for help. And it could be in anything. Maybe you're struggling with a bill, and you have a fear of letting people know that you have struggles, financially. You don't want people to know that you might need a ride to the doctor. You might be dealing with something and you're just trying to do everything by yourself. We are not designed to live this life by ourselves. We're just not. We're not. I recall when I decided to put a message on my community page, saying, hey, would you guys watch my videos, because I'm trying to amp up my watch hours. Guys, I was just amazed at the people who started to respond to me and say, hey Dee, I am actually watching your videos. And that was just so nice. And I was like, oh wow. But had I not opened my mouth and said something, I would have never known that people will actually come out and support me. So it really made me feel good about that. That people actually came out and and supported me with that. What about I recall another situation when I was determining, my next for is my my children's book journey. And someone told me to reach out to the television station in our city and go on and talk about my books. I'm like, there is no way I'm going to do that. But you know what? I allowed that fear to push me and to drive me. Was I nervous? Absolutely. I was nervous. But my hubby was right there with me, cheering me on. And the host made me feel so comfortable. So sometimes, guys, we have to look at some of our past wins and say, you know what? I got up enough guts to do this, so I can do that. I got up enough in me to try this thing. I can go to the next level. My sister-in-law recently went skiing. She's never driven in the snow, never been skiing before, but she said, you know what? I'm going to do this thing. She decided she was going to do it, and she did. She and her daughter, they went together. They had a blast. She says her next thing she's going to do is travel to Thailand by herself. I cannot imagine traveling out of country like that, alone. Now I can do the traveling thing, but I would just think that I would want someone to go with me. But she's confident enough to say, no, I'm going to do this by myself. I was born by myself. I'm going to die by myself, and I'm going to go travel by myself. And so I admire that about her. So guys, we got to take that fear and we got to allow that fear to motivate us, to push us into our next. So it's something, or it might be several things that you want to do. And I want you to think about it. And I want you to start taking some small steps toward whatever that goal might be. I don't know what it is that you want to do, But I want you to start pushing yourself and seeing yourself accomplish that thing. I don't have a fear about what I'm doing, but to actually be outside recording and holding my phone up, wondering if people are like, what on earth is she doing? You know, who is she talking to? Why is she holding the phone that way? You would have never told me in a million years I would be outside doing this, but here I am. Here I am. So again, allow your fear to push you into your next, to push you into your destiny, to push you into your purpose. Get out of the boat. The miracle happens outside of the boat. Bye, guys.